All right, everyone. Um, it is still morning, so I'm going to say good morning to you all again. In case you were not here during the first session, my name is Devon Carter. I have the pleasure of being your MC for the leadership track today. Um, before we get started, let me ask you guys a question. Please raise your hand. Is anybody working hybrid right now? Who's working hybrid? Okay, we got any fully remote people? Okay. How many of you are managing teammates or employees that are hybrid or remote? Okay, so that means you guys are in the right session, all right? Because we have the panel discussion about hybrid work and the hybrid work challenges. We have a wonderful and a very esteemed panel here. We have Miss Bernice Russel Bond, Miss Shelly Epps, and Mr. John Sternstein. Now, just a little bit about them before you clap. Let me tell you how wonderful they are. Okay. All right. So Miss Russell Bond is the Chief Information Security Officer at RTI International. She's responsible for monitoring and maintaining RTI's information and data security. She leads the advancement of RTI's data security, protection, and compliance, and enhancements to their client security posture in an ever-changing security landscape. Ms. Shelly Epps is the Associate Chief Information Security Officer at Duke Health. She holds the certification of Healthcare Information Security and Privacy Practitioner. She's an active member of the ISSA. We love you for that. Thank you. And you are part of the FBI Citizens Academy Alumni Association. And then finally, we have Mr. John Sternstein, who is CEO of Stern Security, the cybersecurity company behind Velocity. I believe he has a booth just out here. So go out and have a conversation with him. John has been a lead contributor to securing a wide variety of organizations in various industries. He's the co-author of Cisco Press course titled Cisco Penetration Testing, The Art of Hacking Series, Live Lessons. John holds numerous certifications, including CISSP. John has been featured as a cybersecurity expert on ABC News, WRAL, and a bunch of other places. So will you please join me in welcoming this esteemed panel to our discussion. All right. If I could get somebody to close that door for me, that would be awesome. All right, so we're going to dive right in. First question. This is going to be for you, Miss Shelly. What do you see as the pros and cons of the hybrid work structure?
Okay, so mic's on. I'm going to be the person I think that largely is, this is going to be an atypical role for me because I'm going to go full on positive today, which is not my norm. I'm really in favor of the remote work or a hybrid work environment. There are some cons, and I think they're going to be obvious, nothing that you guys are going to need us to tell you. It's hard to know sometimes if your staff are present and working during hours, but I think that's just a matter of shifting your paradigm and not caring whether they're present and working those hours. Instead, caring whether they are accomplishing the goals that you have set out for them to achieve in whatever length of time and during whatever period of the day that they need to. I think another con is that we're kind of exhausted. It's funny that we think that we're going to actually feel better by remote work, but we no longer have walks from meeting to meeting, and we no longer have water cooler conversations. Instead, we have meeting, followed by meeting, followed by meeting, followed by meeting, and during an 8-hour day, you might get as many as 12 meetings in. And so at the end of the day, even though you haven't actually met or been in person with someone, you still feel exhausted and drained from that. Saying that, I think that the pros are really evident. First of all, the cost of not leasing space for thousands of employees is probably the enterprise pro that we all should learn to embrace and think about. Like when we left work, we gave up leases that were many $million leases and recouped that money for our organization by not coming back. And the people that do come back can go into easy drop space where they can walk in, sit at a desk, get their work done, and then leave at the end of the day, and whoever shows up gets that space. I also think that it is engaging to be able to very quickly get on a Zoom and have your cameras on and talk to your colleagues. It's not for everybody. There are some people who kind of that flat persona doesn't work for them. And so we've had to do some adapting with different members of our team who Zoom, for some reason, doesn't feel like engagement to them. I think overall, I would say way more positive than negative, way more connectivity. And for me personally, I like my cat and my dog sitting there. I like my refrigerator. I like to be able to walk out in the sunshine for a few minutes. I certainly like, my space at home feels really good to me.
Thank you. Great answer. Miss Bernice.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit to that, and putting on my CISO hat, right? I'm from a risk perspective, and so when we went to, and we actually, offer, if some people are on campus all the time, some people fully remote, but okay, yep. But we had to think about how do we still protect the data. Okay, that's very big for us, and we looked at it from the perspective, we have our corporate staff, but we also have that support corporate functions, but we also have staff that support project, client work, and there are requirements that we have to have regarding the protection of data from a physical perspective as well as a logical, and you don't even get into the whole point of folks outside the United States and international. So those were some of the challenges that that we had to face and figure out. How can we be flexible but still meet our requirements to secure the data? And so I'm not going to go into deep, but that really made us think a lot faster about those nasty two little words, zero trust, which I know all of you are probably tired of hearing about in that journey, but we had to get to the point, or getting to the point where I don't care where you're at, I don't care what, I shouldn't say I don't care where you're at, but you could be wherever you need to be, but we need to have that same posture and that same process for ensuring who you are and what you need to get access to, and again, it's all done in a very secure manner.
Wonderful answers. So, John, got a question for you. What has worked best for you in getting productive engagement from your staff in a hybrid situation?
Well, I mean, we check in with the staff throughout the day. Every day starts with a 15-minute huddle. We call it band practice. No one wants to go to a meeting in the morning, so we try to have fun with it. Everybody is pretty engaged on that, and make sure we talk about what we did the day before, what we're doing today, and I mean, we do it in a fun way, but what it kind of does for us is it shows what everybody's doing. If someone says the same thing every day, they're really not getting their work done. It also helps everybody to see each other. I mean, we're fully remote, but we have an office, but hardly anybody ever goes into it. But I think just checking in on people, that's really what makes the biggest difference for us.
I'll say I think we're actually more productive now than we were before. And we're more actually connected and engaged maybe than we were before as well. We very intentionally start twice a week a 30-minute huddle in the morning. And for our team, at least, the intent is to be completely non-productive. So for 30 minutes, we have coffee, we talk, we look at each other's cats and dogs, we see what's going on, and we spend 30 minutes connecting with each other twice a week, really intentionally in the morning. Then, I think that because we went fully remote, we have actually adopted a lot of technology to support the fully remote environment. in a way that we hadn't been doing before. So Microsoft Teams is our standard communication channel with each other, and we are literally engaging with each other all day long. And I don't have to go find people anymore. I don't have to ask, where's Galen, or where's Tom, or where's somebody else. I know where they are. They're on the other end of that Teams channel. And then we use planners in Teams to make sure that we are assigning tasks, tracking tasks, looking at our productivity. I think your huddles become really, really important, and I think use of the technology becomes really, really important, and it takes over some of the things that you would have been doing before, right? So in the past, if I needed somebody, I had to go hunt them down or call them or email them and wait to see. Now I can see through the technology, are they available? Can they engage with me right now? Is there something that we can do? And because of the ability to use that, I can see how we're completing our tasks very, very easily, and are we staying on track?
And I'll just add one little piece too. I try to be very intentional with the team about having small talk. I'll add that. People get so fast with just sending you a note on Teams with no greeting. So I'm really good at saying, oh, good morning. How are you? And so it's funny. So now the team does that back to me, right? So it's really being intentional about trying to incorporate that cooler talk into our, technology and our habits, because you have to have that social aspect of it.
I'll just speak for myself and my team. What we do a lot is similar to you, Ms. Bernice, but we also, we're quick to pick up the phone. Teams has the phone chat or the phone option, the voice option in it. And so if we find ourselves going back and forth too much in chat, it's like, look, I'll just call you. We can fix this very quickly. And so with that, let me ask a follow-up, okay? Can you speak about work culture and balancing employee health when you're dealing in a hybrid or remote situation?
Yeah, I think it's important to ask your team, are you okay? How are you doing? How's your family? Because, when you can see people, you can kind of read their body language and stuff, but sometimes you have folks and they don't turn the screen on. And that's okay, because you're in front of the screen all the time. You get tired of I know sometimes I don't even want to see myself, right? Because you can see yourself in the picture. So I think it's very important to let people know it's okay to need a break. It's okay to have your screen turned off in meetings. And don't forget that we're all people and that we're all going through things. So I think as a manager, it's just very important to always check on people and to be proactive about it. Things go on in life, things are going on external from your company. And so sending that proactive message out to the team, how's everybody doing? Do you need time away? And just having those conversations that you may normally do when you see somebody in a hallway, and you can tell from their body language. So with that remote workforce is very important. The one other thing I'll say too is with having people who are international, it's about being aware of what's going on with them too and their environment. Sometimes we forget, and we're just so focused on what happens in the U.S., but it's important to understand other cultures and what's going on in other countries, and giving that grace when we're needed to.
Yeah, and we're going to let John talk too, I promise, Bernice and I. Our culture in our group is security, and so it's inherently dark and humorous in our group. We try not to talk to the business people and the more formal people in our group as much as we do, but here's how it looks in our group. We basically send memes as forms of communication to each other all day long. So if we're stuck in a meeting now that's a corporate meeting, think about it in the past. If you were all sitting in a room in the past in a corporate meeting, everybody had to, wait until it was all over to download with each other like what that experience was like. But now we can sit through one of those meetings and literally hammer each other, and even better, hammer the people that are on camera speaking during that. And so it's really common for us to do our best to see if we can hammer our CISO during one of his talks and get him to crack smile. And then everybody cheers through Teams because we know we've been successful in like breaking him a little bit. So that's our culture in our team. And I think that the use of the technology and the remoteness actually lends itself really well to that. And we all bond through it. We come away actually enjoying the meeting, still having embraced the content, but being able to have a good time and crack on each other a little bit. That's super part of our culture and important to us. So we do that really intentionally using the technology and the fact that we are remote now.
So you brought up making sure that, I guess checking in on employee health and everything. I think a big part of that, this is something that was hard for me initially, is as a leader, I almost didn't want to show my team any type of vulnerability or anything. I want to show people I'm always awesome, always happy, always ready to lead the team. And that's, I guess, how I kicked things off initially. But last year, was it last year? A couple years ago, I got really burnt out. And I almost did not want to tell the team that I was burnt out. I didn't know how that would affect the rest of the team. But we had one of our on-site meetings, and I opened up about that. I told everybody, hey, I was burnt out months ago, and I realized, they connected a lot more with me after that. And so I guess showing a little bit of transparency, some vulnerability there, that really helped people connect with me and did the opposite of what I initially was fearful of happening. And so we also definitely just check in on each other a lot more. Like it's pretty easy to do that remote and seeing if people are on Slack. We also took some things like it's so easy to not take any vacation at all, and so easy to work throughout the night. I started scheduling messages. If I wrote something later at night, do not send it to anybody at night. I had one employee that was working later on, and I said, you can't do that, or if you need to do something, just do not contact other people if you don't need to. And then we changed some things around. Like I realized that people were just not taking any vacation. We had 3 weeks vacation with rollover. People just were not taking vacation. So we changed to mandatory vacation, and they have to take 3 weeks. And I haven't had to punish anyone for that yet, but either way, we have to take vacation, and I think we made a closer team. So opening up, understanding their feelings, checking in on them, I think that all helped out a lot.
Very good. So let's jump to the next question. Are there any required cadences at your company for check-ins, or do you require cameras to be on, or is there a dress code or anything? I know that gets a little bit difficult to enforce when you're remote, but just what are your thoughts on that? What are you seeing, or what are you doing?
We have hackers on our team, so nobody wants to dress up all the time. So I guess hesitate on making requirements like that, but I make it in a way so people want to show themselves. So we got everybody matching hoodies everybody wears. People like doing that. Like I said, we have our daily huddle that we have. Got everybody on the team different musical instruments. So at some point, I ask somebody to play something. Nobody really knows how to play, but we do something like that. And it's very hard to do that not being on camera and everything. Everybody wears whatever they want, but everyone knows that when we talk to somebody outside of our organization, you have to grab that collared shirt and put that on afterwards. So.
I'll say, I bet you can already imagine what I'm getting ready to say. We do encourage people to have their cameras on. It's a good idea. It's hard to connect with people when their cameras are off. If they really hate it, we allow them to leave their cameras off. But otherwise, we just generally encourage it, and it's more fun. Yes, we have a cadence of check-in twice a week, 30 minutes in the morning for huddles to make sure it's not mandatory. If you don't want to show up and have coffee with us, that's fine. With regards to dress code, early days of the pandemic, we saw some stuff where people thought that it was a good idea from a corporate perspective to mandate what people wore. And I'm a little oppositional. I will put on a dress shirt if I'm meeting, as John said, with somebody outside of the company. Inside of the company, I try to set the tone from the top. Like, I am very likely to show up to a meeting in a ball cap and crazy earrings and maybe a t-shirt, and realistically anything below that is nobody's business. Like, you wear whatever you want in our company. I don't stand up on camera, so that's nobody's business.
Yeah, I mean, I think we took the approach that we did when folks were on campus, is that, you know, we're trusting that you'll make the best decision based off of who you're meeting with. You know, so if you know you have clients you need to dress appropriately that you're meeting with. It's this internal meeting, there's more flexibility. So I mean, so that's the state we take now. I do require, if we're meeting with vendors, sticky. If we're meeting with vendors, you know, I will tell my vendor, especially the first time, let me put it the first time, everybody needs to turn their camera on. We're not meeting with people, we're not sharing any type of sensitive information with a screen. I will get off that call if cameras don't come on. And so that's, you know, we do have some levels when we're meeting with people initially, if we're sharing sensitive information. So again, based off the conversation, there is some protocol, and I'll set that tone for the top, and my team, you know, is aware of how that, you know, should be followed.
You know, that's interesting, right? Because it kind of leads into the next question. We talk about hiring, right? There's a lot of funny stories out there about imposters, people interviewing remotely and a completely different person showing up. And so with the hybrid and remote work, I'm just curious, like, do you think that helps or hurts recruiting talent, right? The employment process and, you know, just whether people are attracted to the roles.
I definitely think it helps the onus on the company to do additional due diligence. More steps of due diligence into our process when we're hiring people, and because just about all of our interview processes are remote, you know, and so we have to do a couple of additional check boxes. And if we're talking about international staff, and that's to work for, you know, do work to support a home office process, there is a couple of extra check boxes that we have to go through for workers to ensure they are who they say they are, and just to verify their level of expertise in whatever area they're talking about. But we definitely have some more due diligence that we do.
Kind of what you're bringing up, Devon. There was a story. It's actually one of our customers earlier this year. They said they had a lead developer that he was on a Zoom call, and I guess he thought he muted his mic, which he did not, and he started talking to another company. And everyone on the team could hear him talking about this other company and what other things they're doing, and realized that this guy had like 3 other jobs. They hired him, you know, a few months before that, and I mean, nobody ever met this person in person. And so, I mean, they immediately let this person go, realized he had, you know, data on other companies, all the stuff that he shouldn't have been doing. When they tried to get they locked the laptop and everything. But when they looked up like where this guy lived, they did the Google Maps, and it was a Chinese takeout restaurant in New York City. They're like, nobody ever did more due diligence on who this person was. They had no idea who this person was afterwards. So it definitely changed their processes on how they interviewed and got to know people before they actually hired them. But it's just kind of a lesson that, you know, we hear about like what happened to KnowBe4 on, you know, hiring that threat actor. But I mean, it happened here too. I mean, this was a company in Greensboro that this happened to. So, I mean, with our stuff, I make sure we I meet this person in person. I mean, I'll fly somebody out to meet them if they're the good candidate for us. But try to understand who the person is and make sure they fit culturally, but they're also a real person as well.
Yeah, and I know I come across as kind of laid back compared to my peers here. I did have a vendor put his foot on camera, and I ended the call immediately and called his supervisor and was like, absolutely not. Like, I mean, I'm all for relaxed engagement, but I don't want to see anybody's feet. And I won't hire someone that can't turn their camera on. We're technology. If you can't either figure out how to turn your camera on or connect to a network that is reasonably stable, it's probably not going to go well for us to then hire you and expect that you're going to work for us. I for sure interviewed somebody who had his camera off, and I gave him a little bit of leniency, but said by the end of this interview, you have to have your camera on. And when he turned his camera on, he was standing in the middle of a parking lot at a Walmart. And I was like, yeah, we're done. So I think that, again, there's a balance between what is a reasonable expectation of professionalism from an IT staff and what is also like life-giving for people to have some freedom and flexibility to live their lives and to be productive as IT staff. So
I think that's spot on. I know in a not too distant past, I actually interviewed someone. We were interviewing him for a role that I had open, and I kept hearing like noise in the background a little bit. Well, come to find out, he's walking his dog with his wife in the neighborhood while he's doing the interview for the job. Not really a good impression. Doesn't seem like he's taking it serious. So he did not get hired.
yeah, what I will overlook are, kid noises in the background. That's the value of remote work. If you have to have a sick kid at home and you're going to parent them a little bit throughout the day while you're working, that's the value of it. So we'll overlook that. We'll overlook, if you've got a contractor in the house and you need to go off camera for a little while something happens with that contractor and you drop in the chat, BRB contractor here, great, thank you for that. But there's some reasonable boundaries.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, moving on to the next question. Do you think your company will bring staff back into the office, or is remote work, that's just what it's going to be moving forward?
Nope. Millions of dollars in savings from not having to lease space. I don't believe that they are going to bring our IT staff, and I think that that is the smart decision. We have shown through the last 4 years that we can do this and that we are still productive, and it is a massive waste of money for us to go drive in, sit at a desk, lease that space, and then drive back home. So the answer for us would be almost certainly no.
Yeah, I think we're going to continue to be optional, hybrid. We are, though, collapse or consolidate our space, and so that people are together. We don't want to have 5 buildings and you got 2 floors empty, 1 floor full, or 1 person here. Being very intentional and trying to ensure our space is consolidated where people are coming into the office. The other thing that's a little bit of a challenge too is, you do have some people who don't want to work from home. They want to be out of the office, and especially our regional people. So we have to be intentional now about finding shared spaces for them. And so, yes, we're still lowering our expenses though, 'cause it's not keeping that whole building. But, we are looking at, different options with WeWorks or stuff of that nature, not only for those staff, those regions, I guess I would say that we have a number of staff that want to work in the office, for from the perspective of business continuity, because now you get into the phase where people are like, oh my God, which was awful what happened in Western North Carolina. But and people are like, okay, well, I'm okay, but all of our internet is down, all of this is down. So how does that look going forward? Right? You have people working all over now, and so there's a lot of different conversations regarding how we support those staff who work remotely but still want to have an option to go into the office?
Yeah, we're gonna stay remote also. I mean, we were remote first, and then we got an office. But I mean, I told the team we have an awesome office. You know, come anytime. But I'm not gonna make you do that, and I'm not gonna go back on my word. So it goes back to the trust and transparency there. I tell them, you want to come to the office? Food on me, drinks on me. We'll play guitar together. Sounds awesome. But yeah, most people don't take me up on that. So.
Let me ask the crowd, are any of you dealing with having to come back into the office? Are your companies asking you to do that? Anybody dealing with that? Okay, I see a few in the back. Few, kind of, sort of. No, nobody seems to like that. I think that makes it really tough. It's a hard transition once you get used to the flexibility of being home, being remote. Trying to come back in the office now is it's counterproductive at this point. All right, so business continuity with remote work. What do you think? You started touching on it a little bit, but what do you think? How are we doing in that space?
So it's a challenge. We had to think about things differently. You know, when we would think about business continuity and COVID forced that. You know, you're talking about, okay, people can't work in the office, so most of them will go and work home and things of that nature. But now that folks are remote, what is the continuity if power goes out or something? And so we started having to think about strategically, where are we going to have option 2? And how does that look, especially for our executive leadership team? We have, you know, do we need to have numerous devices, ready? And again, depending on the regions we're at, where do we have a secure location ready for us for 15 people or 20 people or whatever that is? And so we definitely had to start thinking differently from the perspective of not people on campus going out, but how do we get some people who are remote in? Because we have that generator that can run for, a week or so, and we're in that zone where we are identified as a critical business and will get priority, where people homes are not in that zone. So we had to rethink what that looked like now that people are remote, and really be intentional about the roles and responsibilities of our remote workers so that we can kind of identify key staff that we need to make sure that there's a backup plan if their primary work location is now not available.
I'll say a couple things. I think that, thank goodness the world is always giving us real life examples to help us to test these things. So how do we do with business continuity? Well, CrowdStrike happens on a Friday, and everybody in our organization gets a message saying, come in. You're required to come in, right? We're going to put hands on keyboards, and it doesn't matter who you are or how important you are or how unimportant you are. Like, you're now a computer resetter, and you're going to spend the next 3 days doing that all day long. And so, I think that that's a real world scenario that shows us what happens in that moment. How does it work? At the same time, I think that BC is an area where you probably should be doing some tabletops right now. You should be looking at things like Change Healthcare and CrowdStrike and asking yourself, are we incorporating this into our tabletop exercises in context of the fact that we have a lot of remote workers? For us, it wound up being great. We had remote workers who, had they been on site, would not have been at their homes in distant areas where we have clinics where they could go right around the corner and do those resets. We would have been sending people out to do resets as opposed to basically just saying, oh, you're that far out? Well, there's a clinic right around the corner from you. Go there and do resets there. So I think you got to kind of look at how you do it, use all your real world examples that are coming up, practice it in your tabletops, and remember, it was never a scenario where there weren't periods where everybody was at home. There was never a scenario where it was like all hands on deck at 3 o'clock in the morning during an incident. And so we always had to come in the event that there was something going on. That's still true. The idea that, that 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever it was, gave us a safety net for BCDR kind of presupposed that bad things happen during regular work hours, which they almost never do. So I think that pull all that information in, test it, see what works, and then adapt, and that's the security. Oh, I nailed it.
Well, honestly, I think that's the end of our questions. So what I would like to do is open the floor up to people in the audience. Do you guys have any questions or comments about hybrid work, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, anything like that?
So my last 2 roles have both been fully remote. And I'm wondering if any of your organizations actually provide any kind of technology stipend to their employees to help them either set up their office at home or get a faster internet speed. The first company I worked for a couple of years ago did. The second company doesn't. And I'm just interested in what the thoughts are.
Yeah, we don't have a stipend. We will set folks up with the dual monitors and stuff of that nature for home. It's funny, before COVID, we used to give staff who did work remote, because it was a handful, right? We used to give them a stipend for their internet. But now the flip side is, okay, well, guys, y'all are saving money because you're not coming to work every day and so forth and so on. So that stipend actually went away, right? But again, we will send the camera, the device to you, and even when you do upgrades, so we'll pay for all of that to make sure you have your necessary equipment to do your job. But and actually, in some folks too, we will, if they need a special type of chair or something, we'll help out with that. But we don't do a stipend for internet anymore.
Yeah, we don't either, but I guess if we did hire somebody with dial-up, I'd upgrade them. So.
I wouldn't hire somebody with that.
The right person.
Oh my goodness. There. Hey.
So thinking about being people managers, what has been the biggest change for you guys going from managing people in person to managing them now remotely?
I'm going to have to think about that.
Well, Kaylin reports to me, so that's my employee asking that question. We don't get to eat as much fun, like junk food together as we used to, so we're maybe slightly more healthy. And I definitely am much more intimate with the lives of your cats than I was before we moved home. But honestly, I think actually I have an ability now to directly connect and engage and feel close to way more of the staff than I would have before. And, I'm sure all of you, like us, are taking a ton of, corporate DE&I and other engagement training right now, but it is all about like those moments of connectivity. And actually you can do a lot of it without seeing each other, without being together physically. And because you're able to do it more efficiently, you can do it with more people at the same time. So I think for my staff, we have a staff of 50, I think I know kind of what's going on in their lives, and we do all the things that make it a little bit easier. So we do call outs in our channel when someone gets a cert, or when somebody gets a degree, or when somebody gets married, or something along those lines. And you might not have had a chance before to have celebrated somebody because like 5 of the 50 people on the team may have known that. But now with all 50 of them being able to see it and being able to say, yay, great you, etc., I think it actually gives us an ability. I said from the beginning I was going to be a little bit more positive, which is not my norm. Gives us more connectivity, I think, than we may have had before. And that's only my personal experience, but I feel closer to my staff than I did when I was working, because when I was working, I might have one or two of them that I was very tight with. And now all of them I have some level of connectivity with.
Yeah, I think it's a little challenging, right? Because the people, it is team-based. So the different teams work more closely with each other. So it's my job to really make sure that the different teams communicate and have time together. So that's where I have the SOC team is doing this, the endpoint team is doing, and to take that time and be very intentional that they have time together to share what each other are doing, why, answer questions, so they can help support each other. The other thing that I find a little bit more challenging with managing folks remotely is ensuring that that person who's a little bit shyer, who doesn't always speak up, I have to be intentional about making sure everybody has time. Does anybody else have questions? Not you five that always talk, but these other folks. And so to make sure that they don't get lost, And so, that's the biggest challenge, is making sure that everybody kind of knows what the other folks are doing. And then also making sure everybody is heard. So I think that's very important.
I think the huddles really helped with us, or band practice really helped with us, because I know initially I didn't do that, and I lost touch with some people on the team. You'd see somebody on camera finally, and like, whoa, your beard is like 1 foot long. What happened to that? But that really helped us stay in tune with each other. I know some people that are on our team I used to work with at other organizations. We used to do a lot of team walks together. We still do that now remotely. People are just on their phones on Slack, and we still say, whoever wants to walk, go for a team walk. But I think we're still keeping pretty good touch with everybody. Maybe even better now.
So obviously a lot changes when you go to a fully remote workforce as far as threat surfaces go and potential. You guys talked earlier about some of the potential, things like, potentially hiring a malicious actor or disclosing information over a VTC with, someone. Now there's this whole deep fake thing kind of in the mix as well. But just in general, not just with collaboration, but also with endpoint and network controls. What kinds of things are you guys focused on, or have you already added to reduce the risks related to putting all of those, people and devices out there in the field?
I mean, we definitely have all those controls on the workstations and everything that are important. But I think that, having a whole team of cybersecurity people, they could find ways around anything. So I think the most important thing for me is to keep close with the team and make sure the team is happy, enjoys the organization. Even if they're not happy in their personal life, at least they know that we care about them. I think if we weren't doing that, I'd be way more concerned about somebody being disgruntled and everything. But of course, we have our own controls internally to stop that, give less access, make sure that our developers, some of our developers out there, they'll tell you all the time, we don't get as much access as we want. I mean, we have all those controls in place, but really, I think the biggest thing for us is just personal connections with everybody.
Yeah, I agree. We have all the baseline controls in place, right? And a couple of years ago, folks got ticked off, but we disabled USB, and we only, because we have to reduce those risks of data loss. That's the biggest thing to me with our remote force. But the big piece, all of the technical controls are great. Like I said, if people take enough time, they could try to figure out how to circumvent them, right? But it's really awareness, and so I spend a lot of time on culture shift. I laugh, but RTI has about 6,500 FTEs, right? And then we have another couple of thousand of consultants. But I'm like, guess what? All of y'all are on my team, because security is everybody's responsibility, and this is how we have to behave to be able to have the flexibility to work wherever we want to work, right? The other challenge, I think, for us is, again, we have, a lot of government contracts. And so it's so many stringent regulations and requirements that we have to do. So that's their extra, it's an extra level when we talk about staff working remotely and they're working on a DOD contract or they're working on a HHS contract. So there's some additional processes we have to put in place, I'll call them that, to make sure they're meeting the standards that our external, again, our clients put in place too. So that was a really big challenge, thinking about how to meet our client requirements from a physical and logical perspective for our remote workers.
Yeah, all that, 100%. And then I think that there's nothing really new in the world right now. Insider threat has always been a risk. The need to monitor employee behavior has always been there. The thing that I think is better is that the technology does lend itself particularly well to doing that in a way that it has never done before, thanks to the AI and the adaptive tools that are coming out. And so I do think that you have to leverage them as much as you can. You have to presume insider threat. You have to presume dirty desk and everything else, and you have to act accordingly. So your security teams are going to have to do what they've always done, which is trust but distrust, but verify. And I think that I love the remote workforce, but I'm a big believer that there's not really a difference. You could always do all of the bad things on site that you can do off site. You could always be a slacker. You could always have two jobs. You could always, be a malicious insider from on site, just like you can from off site. So you just continue what you have done all along, but you use whatever technology is going to lend itself towards being good security for your organization.
All right. Well, I think we're going to leave it there because I believe they are serving lunch. So please give our panel a hand.